Today is Tuesday in the first week of Lent and the last day of February. As a child, my recollections of Lent include singing Ash Wednesday hymns, carrying a heavy cross or candles as an altar server for Friday evening Stations of the Cross, and of course, my family filling the dinner table with styrofoam boxes from the local parish fish fry. While these are all happy memories, Lent often seemed like a dour time, with both churches and secular spaces drab and empty of the Christmas lights and Valentine hearts. Our free time occupied by the scrupulous denial of chocolates and other small pleasures. Needless to say, I don't think of Lent as a drab and dour period of self-mortification anymore. For me, the beginning of Lent each year inaugurates the springtime. While we Washingtonians will wait a few more weeks for the blooming of cherry blossoms, Lent marks a time for our own blossoming. Rather than a winter of pious deprivation, Lent can be our springtime as our prayer, fasting, and almsgiving reset our course. In Lenten prayer, we contemplate our own depths, and in our wounds, hope to find the crucified God there. My reflection today is about this aspect of our Lenten practice, prayer. In today's reading from Matthew's Gospel, Jesus teaches his disciples how to pray. These words, the Our Father or the Lord's Prayer, are now recognized throughout the world as a central prayer of Christianity. Do you remember the first time you prayed the Our Father? I do. My first memory of saying this prayer traces back to an evening when I was 8 years old. I was preparing for my first reconciliation and First Communion that spring, and was given various assignments by the CCD teacher. One night, before bed, my mother told me I was going to learn a prayer, and she proceeded to teach me to make the sign of the cross and say the Our Father. I was confused by many of the words, like hallowed be thy name, but I learned the words. For most of us, saying the Our Father is now rote and a regular part of the Mass. So let's look at it in a new way. The Our Father isn't only the Lord's Prayer, but it's a template for how we should go about our own prayer life. Notice what Jesus says earlier in the Gospel passage. God knows what you need before you ask. Allow this line to help you interpret the prayer. If God already knows what I need, then what am I doing when I pray? When I pray, give us this day our daily bread, I'm not petitioning so much as trusting in God that my basic needs will be satisfied. Life may not give me what I want today, but hopefully life gives me experiences that I need for both sustenance and growth. Thomas Merton wrote, "Every moment and every event of every person's life on earth plants something in their soul." In prayer, we are not only asking for these things, we are acknowledging and recognizing that life is filling us with experiences. We offer gratitude for everything we have and trust in God when facing something we don't yet understand. Second, we pray, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." We all know that forgiveness is important. Even into adulthood, I have struggled to let go of my own propensity for taking offense and holding grudges. My mother often cautioned me not to burn bridges, and I suspect she could see that I didn't have full control of my own fires. Very recently, I was holding on to a grudge that it took me a while to unravel. The following passage from Richard Rohr's book, Falling Upward, offered me helpful advice. He writes, "The offended feel the need to offend back those who they think have offended them, creating defensiveness on the part of the presumed offenders, which often becomes a new offensive, ad infinitum. There seems to be no way out of this self-defeating and violent ping-pong game, except growing up spiritually. When we pray, we ask for the strength and spiritual maturity to forgive others as God forgives, showing abundant mercy, like the father of the prodigal son. Letting go of grudges isn't simply nice behavior. It's a mark of maturity and integrity, a sign of strength. Finally, we pray, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Each of us can ask ourselves what evils we pray to be delivered from this Lent. For me, the temptations of pride, power, and prestige are uniquely strong here in Washington. Our proximity to power and the local culture of ambition are not evils in themselves, but they are temptations. We are tempted to believe that our titles and successes will sustain us in life. When we lose these things, we can easily despair. The Lord's Prayer reminds us that God's is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. And Thomas Merton reminds us that prayer is awakening, enlightenment, and the amazing intuitive grasp by which love gains certitude of God's creative and dynamic intervention in our daily life. So what do we do? During Lent, we're called to greater prayer, to recognize every moment as a grace, to build trust in the future, to strengthen our soul in order to release grudges and build bridges, and to deliver us from self-centeredness. Please pray for me this Lent, and I will pray for you that our lives can blossom like this new springtime.